All right, two men on a mission for the playoffs. Virat Kohli and Faf du Plessis cancel out Heinrich Klassen's 100. They set a few records in the process. The highest partnership this year, the highest score chased by RCB successfully in 7 years. Only the third highest score ever in the IPL that they've managed to chase successfully. And it puts them well on course for a top 4 finish. Small matter of beating table toppers Gujarat Titans on the last day of the league. But we look back at what was truly a masterclass from Faf and Kohli, and why it looked so easy from the Sunrisers' point of view. With Tom Moody, it's a very good evening to Sanjay Manjrekar as well. On Visit Saudi presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout. I've realized this game has taught me partnerships are important, Tom. Can't be one man. Exactly. So we needed the Virat Kohli to your Faf du Plessis.
We needed the anchor man.
That's a word that's thrown around with more criticism than praise these days.
I'm happy to be Devon Conway.
Oh, very good. Are you happy to be Virat Kohli? Because that is as good an innings as you can hope for a player who's been under the spotlight with criticism, batting first. That's Kohli at his most sort of ominous best, wasn't it, Sanjay?
Yes, he's got T20 hundreds before. He's had, what, 5 or 6 50s this season. But I love the template with which he batted tonight. And I wish and I pray that he continues in the same way, the same blueprint, which was about trying to maximize returns on every ball that he faced. Sometimes you wonder whether he sets a long-term target for himself and in the process loses a bit of control on the present, where, you know, after he's hit a couple of boundaries, you'll see him take a single and, you know, prolong his innings. Tonight, he just came in thinking different. I don't know whether it was his own, you know, decision or somebody spoke to him. But if Virat bats in this fashion, not only is it going to extend his T20 career, suddenly you're looking at RCB as a different team, because now you've got Faf du Plessis, Glenn Maxwell and Virat Kohli batting at the same kind of strike rate. Now that is ominous.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a different 100 in the first innings and we thought Faf du Plessis is going to be the enforcer and Kohli made him take his time. That was as good a 100 as we've seen, and we haven't seen one in the IPL for a while, Tom. That's his first 100 in almost 4 years.
Yeah, it's the best of Virat Kohli, that there's no question that. I think it was 2016 where he scored a number of hundreds in the same season, scored a ridiculous amount.
Tom, why don't you wait for a second, just a quick second. I'll ask you to put that on. Just give me a second, would you? Let's get your voice on. Yeah. Well, in the meantime, why don't you and me talk? Since we haven't caught up in so long, and you've said a lot of good things about Virat Kohli,
but some of the best stuff that he's spoken.
Yeah, we'll make him say it again. It'll be like a take 2. You've done some acting in your time, haven't you? Can you?
Yeah.
Can they let me just go around the room with all our live audience here and make sure. Can everyone hear Tom Moody now? Excellent, we can hear.
Okay, perfect.
Let's go back.
What I was basically saying, if I rewind the tape, that is the best of Virat Kohli, and it reminds me of the way he batted in that season where he scored 900 plus runs, which I think was 2016. So that's quite a long time ago. But the fluency and the aggression that he had from the start to the finish was intimidating. He totally bossed that Sunrisers attack. No one was getting in his way. There's only one little moment he had a slice of luck with an inside edge that just missed off stump, but you know, everyone's allowed a little bit of luck. Yeah. But his stroke play and his command at the crease was, you know, quite intimidating.
What was important for me was to know whether Virat Kohli had that kind of a game still in him. You know, on many occasions you felt that he wasn't extracting the extreme T20 game out of himself. Today we got an idea and we came to know that he has that game still, the one that we saw so much earlier, 2016. And when he decided that he was going to actually play in that fashion, he has the ability. And today was another example of how fitness is the key for people who are especially aging, who are not 20-year-olds. You have Faf du Plessis there, Virat Kohli, and one of the things that you need in T20 cricket is power. And sometimes, you know, aging players struggle to get that in their game. Faf du Plessis this season has hit the ball more powerfully than he's ever done. Even when in his youth he wasn't hitting the ball longer. And Virat Kohli today showed us with that 100-meter six. He still has that strength, and that comes from sheer hard work. It's not something that happens naturally. As you age, you get weaker, your muscles get weaker. But these two guys are just an example for people who are post-30.
Yeah, I mean, all the praise to Kohli. That's a phenomenal innings in a game that was a must-win game under pressure. Faf du Plessis batted in his shadows today, but a word on perhaps his remarkable consistency for an internationally retired player who's aging, as Sanjay says, who plays some of the tough games and the tough innings too. Tom?
Yeah, look, another great innings from him. He's having a remarkable season in the IPL this year. 38 years old, playing his best cricket, you know, and as you quite rightly point out, Sanjay, you know, the fitness side of it, you know, that, you know, just holds firm for that 20 overs. They're batting that 20 overs. They're not losing their shape. They're not fatigued. They're still running those twos. So they're showing every cricketer that's coming through the system, that's the template. You've got to be fit. You've got to be strong, because if you want to dominate, you need to have all those things.
We've had this conversation before, but the chemistry between the two, the bromance almost, and I know Dan Vittori said last year that it took them a while to pair Kohli back up at the top. He batted at 3 for a while last year, got him back here, and he says Faf plays a role too in being the equal to Kohli, the role that AB de Villiers played for so long. It just seems like the scale of this partnership, for this to now be right up there, Sanjay, with the numbers on opening partnerships in IPL cricket, these two together have just changed the dynamic of opening batting to a large
actually
degree.
when you look at the partnerships, the highest partnerships, you see that the innings are not like in Test cricket where you have your 60 or 70 innings together, just about 12 or 13. So the volume of runs is not that important as much as the impact that you make. Ruturaj Gaikwad, Devon Conway have made more impact while getting the same amount of runs, you would think, together. But tonight changes everything. Until now, it was Faf du Plessis, the aggressor. Virat Kohli would get to a 30 or a 40 and then would slow down. And RCB wasn't quite getting the full benefit of Virat Kohli, the T20 batter. And now, you know, you'll get the volume of runs like Faf du Plessis wearing the orange cap with a strike rate of 160 or 170. And that is now going to be from both ends. And if the approach doesn't change, now that is going to be tough, because today's pitch wasn't easy. I don't think the Duke came in and just made things very easy. It's just 3 exceptional batters who got runs today on a pitch that wasn't easy. Klassen and these two.
They throw the matchup thing out, don't they? When you've got Kohli and Faf, you don't care about right and left hand.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, again, all good players can face anything really, and I think that can be overplayed. But we have also seen historically both Virat and Faf struggle against left arm spin. Not struggle to a point where they're getting knocked over for fun, but you can squeeze them. But the left arm spin has to be of high quality. And one thing that I look at when I look at this Sunrisers attack, to me it looks quite mediocre. There's no X factor there. Boovy's a classy bowler. He's bowled well this season, but he's really on his own there. Natarajan's, he's a finisher, but he needs other people around him to support that role. In IPL cricket now, with this impact player, you've got to have 5 red-hot bowlers with diversity. You need wrist spin, you need pace, you need swing. And with an impact player, there's no excuse. You should never not have that at your disposal as a captain. And to me, it looked like Markram went to a machine gun fight with a pocket knife.
4 or 5 of them.
He just didn't have the resources.
That's the other side to this. Taking nothing away from Faf and Kohli, that was a high-class partnership, but it seemed so easy. Perhaps if you look at all the bowling attacks that you'd come up against, is it fair to call this one? Tom calls it mediocre. Is it fair to call it toothless? There didn't seem any real threat.
Yes, and Markande was also left out, so the spin element was gone. The surprise. I mean, the idea was right. Left arm spinner in the first 6 overs. Abhishek Sharma has his limitations. So if you had a proper left arm spinner, somebody like an Akshar Patel or for that.
Well, Mayank Duggar didn't bowl that badly, but he was brought in much later.
So I just wonder, because Sunrisers Hyderabad are not in contention, whether they just decided to give some players a bit of a go. Harry Brook might have been the reason to give him a go. If this was a crunch game for Sunrisers Hyderabad, I can't see them leaving out somebody like a Marco Jansen. So who knows? But yes, it just gives us another Virat Kohli special to enjoy.
Does it in some ways almost sadden you, given the years you enjoyed at the helm at Sunrisers, a strength essentially built around strong bowling? Yes, there was David Warner, but essentially Sunrisers won games with strong bowling. To go into a game like this, whether they were in the tournament or not, we discussed it pre-show as well, Tom, that bowling looks suspect, highly suspect, and in some ways I'm sure there's a personal almost like I said, hurt or disappointment as to how ordinary the bowling attack was overall today?
Not so much just the bowling attack. When you spend a lot of time at a particular place, you grow attached to it, and you feel you're part of that family. And you know, it's just sad to see a team not performing. But then you look at the you know, the bowling attack side of things. You know, our philosophy over a long period of time, which brought us quite a lot of success in consistency, was based around owning 120 balls with the ball. So we had an attack that we knew that we could defend, because we didn't have the option or the luxury of depth in Indian batting, because, you know, when the franchise was bought from Deccan Chargers, the Indian, you know,
all the big boys
Rohit Sharma went to Mumbai
All
Indians.
the big boys were taken there.
So we had to start from scratch. We had Vihari as a 20-year-old batting at 3. You know, so that's how we had to rebuild the side based around bowling. That's one thing that we could control. So we built our philosophy around defending 120 balls. So even if we only got 145, we knew with the likes of Mishra and Mustafa Zur and then Rashid Khan after that. So all that type, we knew that we could squeeze an opposition.
And there was a long conversation we had at pre-match too. Aiden Markram's comments will perhaps add fuel to the conversation, but Ian Bishop didn't let that go on air, and he was sort of seconded by his fellow commentators that however poor Umran Malik may have bowled, surely he's not that bad that he can't fit into this bowling lineup.
Yeah, it must be some kind of mindset. Maybe Tom can also tell us about Sunrisers Hyderabad, whether there is a culture that has now set in there, which is going to be difficult to change, because this has happened periodically with Sunrisers Hyderabad. Is one of the teams that, you know, we just turn up and watch. It's not a team that everybody is eager to watch. It's a team that has, you know, gone and won the IPL.
2016.
And made a final 2 years later.
Is it a cultural thing now, whether winning is not a desperation? I'm sure they must want to win, but then making these calls makes you wonder whether they're also on the right track with that vision that they have in mind.
Yeah, look, I'm sure winning is very much high on the priority list. You know, everyone wants to win, but it takes you know, everyone, you know, on the same page, going in the same direction to create that magic. It can't be done in a confused, unstructured manner, and you only have to look at the season, have a look at the selection process, have a, you know, the changes, the number of changes that have happened throughout the year, the different philosophies around their batting, people coming into the side, coming out of the side in different positions, out of positions, all those types of things make it very difficult for a player and a team to settle on, you know, what their role is and how they go about it. You know, clearly a 23-year-old Umran Malik that bowls 150 kilometres an hour is going to be expensive. That's a given. But what he's going to do is he's going to blow a couple of teams apart. But you've got to be prepared that there's going to be a couple of days that he's going to go for 14 and over, 15 and over.
He did that just last year.
Yes, exactly. And the thing is if you're thinking short-sighted with players like, you know, Umran Malik, or whether it be Abdul Samad or Abhishek Sharma, if you're short-sighted with them, they're never going to realise their potential in your franchise. They'll realise it somewhere else.
There's another thing that I've learned in this IPL is that if you back a player strongly, give him the confidence, he goes from here to
100%.
Rinku Singh. I mean, what a phenomenal player he's become. So guys that you keep trusting, eventually I think there is enough talent in India.
I mean, Tushar Deshpande, what a story that is.
I mean, and
you find one at a lot of the good franchises.
Philosophy. You keep backing, and I think that's true for most players who have reasonable talent. Look at Mumbai Indians, for example. You were saying, you know, who are these rookie, you know, players that they've got? But all of them are now coming into their own. Tilak Verma, you know, played superbly. We have Vishnu Vinod that is coming to the rank. Team David is
Akash Madwal, Vadera, they've been good. CSK is the story for that.
But you know yourself as a former player, if you feel like you belong and you feel like you've got, you know, trusted support around you, you walk a foot taller, don't you? But if you feel you're in a vulnerable environment, you always are feeling that every ball is a test for you to prove that you're good enough to be there and belong there.
So if time permits, just the little deeper issue that we have with IPL teams.
I don't have a choice. I think I'm going to make you say it anyway.
Is that, we talked off air, on air with Yusuf Pathan too. For example, Sunrisers Hyderabad, on paper looked a decent side. And, who knows if Harry Brook had a sensational season, their batting would have looked good. Mayank Agarwal, orange cap, possible. It didn't happen. That first game that they lost by 72 runs against the Rajasthan Royals wasn't a great start. But what if you keep trusting the same lot for 5 or 6 games, no matter what? That is easier said than done, right? Because you want to go that way, but you're not the boss of the team. There's somebody sitting on top of your head as well. Maybe with Indian cricket, at least you can be the boss as coach and captain, that this is how we want to go. And there isn't maybe as much interference with the private league with high stakes. Must be difficult to pull that off.
And we, of course, go back to Aiden Markram's comments at the toss, where Tom mentioned also that it implies that he perhaps doesn't have as much of a say in team selection.
And that is not just with Sunrisers Hyderabad, it's common with a few other teams as well. So I guess then the template that we talked about, Virat Kohli winning template, is also the Dhoni template. Trust a guy who's been given charge and let him sort of get on with it, and no matter what the results, you stay the course. Easier said than done, I understand, but
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I understand also it's a tricky sort of conversation for you in some regards. Many associate you with the Sunrisers, the face of it, and you have worked with Brian Lara in his first year, so I guess there would be some level of sympathy towards how hard it could be the first year of being in the IPL.
Being a first-year coach in IPL cricket, it's a pretty tough introduction to your coaching career. Brian's got a remarkable sort of backlog as a player, but he's got limited experience as a coach, and this is the first big gig that he's got, and it's a tough gig. Coaching in the IPL, you ask any coach that's been involved in IPL cricket, it's high pressured, high stakes, and it's not easy. It's not easy at all.
I've stopped plugging the contribution we've made to the Sunrisers dugout. I was doing it much more at the early parts of the season, but therefore I'm not mentioning Gaurav Sundararaman as much as I was initially, saying, we've got a man there. Poor chap. I've just mentioned him again. I'm sure he's going to watch this. So anyway, we empathize. It's a tough first season for Brian Lara as well as GS and most of that new look Sunrisers management team. Just a quick point though, Tom. I wonder if at all you think at the end of that, clearly that bowling wasn't good enough, Kohli and Faf were great, or do you think, gee, we catch Faf du Plessis on 8?
Yep.
That'd be a different game.
100%. It would have been a different game in that it would have certainly put RCB on a lot more pressure, and it would have then relied on other people to step up. But still, it doesn't hide the fact that attack was, quite shallow. And as soon as someone got in, and I think the surface actually got a little bit better. It seemed to skid on a bit, and that may have been just the dew. I'm not taking anything away from the way that RCB batted.
Faf did call it at the toss, and we want to chase. There could be some dew.
Yeah, and you could tell there's a little bit of dew on the surface, sort of, and therefore it becomes a bit easier to bat. But you just don't know when those little opportunities are taken. That chance there then creates a little bit of pressure. You might get a run out. You might, a few other things fall into place for you. Then you're controlling the game. They at no stage after that drop catch did they have any control of what was happening in that game. It was being totally dictated by the batting.
All right. Well, you almost feel for Heinrich Klassen, who had almost such a look of sadness on his face because he thought he had announced to the world, and he certainly has been a fine player regardless of the result. We got Tom to say a lot of good things about him on a halftime show. Since I have you now, you feel for that. It's one of the higher quality innings that will end up on the losing side.
And he had the worst of the pitch because he batted in the first half against a better attack. And the thing to like about Klassen, one is, guys who score at that strike rate, how they manage to get volume of runs plus the consistency just makes them rare, batters like Faf du Plessis, the consistency. The thing to like about Klassen is that his strike rate against spin is much better than pace. Now that is exceptional from somebody who comes from South Africa, and we saw that a few years back, didn't we, when we took Kulcha apart, Kuldeep and Yuzvendra Chahal. So this is, I think, a lesson for a lot of people at the auction. Overseas batters, don't just look at their performances in their respective leagues. See how they play in these conditions and how good are they against spin. And this is one overseas batter who's perfect for the Indian Premier League.
Right. All right. Well, they'll have many questions, the Sunrisers. Heinrich Klassen is not among them. Quick final thoughts on RCB, what this kind of win does for their playoff chances. Quick look at the points table too. That'll tell us they are best positioned. If they win, they enjoy a healthier net run rate than the Mumbai Indians. You'll get the math on the ESPN Cricinfo app once the statsmen have put it together with regards to scenarios. It's also a good result for the tournament from a neutral perspective. Had Hyderabad won, Chennai and Lucknow would have qualified by default going into the last round of games. Now it's all to play for. Chennai go to Delhi. If they lose there, their fair game. Lucknow go to Kolkata. If they lose there, their fair game. Because both Bangalore and Mumbai could get to 16. And you have small matter of Rajasthan, Kolkata ending on 14 and hoping for some serious results going their way. But let's focus on Bangalore, shall we? They're the team under the spotlight right now. You said pre-match, Tom Moody, that on this run of 5 away games, had we managed to win at least 3, we would be in good shape. They've won 3 now. They go back to the Chinnaswamy after a long break and they play the table toppers, the Titans, who've qualified. A couple of ways of looking at this. Bangalore fans would be saying, they've qualified in the top 2. Maybe they'll rest Shami. Maybe, Hardik will sort of just take it easy. Somebody else will lead and we could beat Gujarat Titans. That doesn't quite happen before a qualifier number 1, does it?
No, it doesn't. And it really depends on whether Shami has got any sort of issue. If he hasn't got any issue, it'd be a brave decision not to play him.
Yeah.
If he's fit and everything's in order, you play him to keep that momentum, keep that rhythm. And you also got to look at it from point of view, from the Titans' point of view. Who do you want to play in that first game? You're going to be, playing in that first game. Who do you want to be number 2? And who's your preference? Is it RCB? Or is it another team that's potentially going to fall into that position? So there's a strategic point to it. I'm not saying that you're going to lose a game intentionally, but
but there's not a game they'll be less focused for because they've qualified top 2.
But it's also going into a final losing a game.
Yeah,
you're a lot worse off than going into a final having just won a game. Mentally, you're still on that momentum. You're feeling good about yourselves. You're feeling confident, but if you suddenly get that little, kidney punch just before the main event, you're thinking, oh gosh, it didn't quite work out today. We were 4 for 50 and we fell over.
Yeah. Well, forget all the other permutations. We don't know what will happen on Saturday, and that will affect Sunday too. But just the way that RCB have won these last 2 games at Jaipur, where they demolished Rajasthan Royals, and now beating Sunrisers in a game like this after having conceded 180 plus. They had lost 2 before that. Do you sense momentum is with them, that they've played well enough? They're a team that has earned a top 4 spot.
Momentum is a nice thing we conveniently use as well, to make a point. They've got the winning momentum with them, but we've seen teams winning at Rajasthan Royals. What happened to their winning momentum? The thing for me that gets me worried about RCB is where they're playing the next game.
Yeah, at home.
Which means they might have to change their starting 11 when they're bowling. I don't know whether Bracewell then fits into that team as the bowler. Wanindu Hasaranga, maybe he'll come back. And we saw Virat Kohli bat in this fashion and how the team looks completely different. If that doesn't happen, those same issues with RCB will resurface, because now you're talking about Titans. If they bat first, there is a good chance they'll get over 200 runs.
Yeah.
And you're chasing that kind of a target. So their issues remain. But what is nice to see is that despite Josh Hazelwood, Wanindu Hasaranga, their bowling doesn't seem to get too affected. The batting will continue to be an issue purely because the top 1, 2, 3 consume a lot of the innings. And I've realized that if people down the order get more opportunities, they blossom. Nobody is that bad to just keep failing all the time. There might be 1 or 2, but we see more examples of youngsters given the opportunity. So that issue still remains. And if the venue was a bit like this, where the ball was going to be turning, it would be the same bowling attack, and that team looks better to me all round than a team that they'll pick on a flat pitch.
Sure, they'll have a more stiff bowling attack, you'd think, with Rashid and Shami if they play. Call it for me, Tom. RCB and the Titans.
Call it for you, as in who's going to win?
Yeah.
I think the Titans are a better side.
I thought some RCB fans would be watching this and they'd sleep well for 2 nights.
Yeah, no, I just think they're a better side. They're a more complete side, and they've shown that.
But just one thing, when you said about with them already qualified and they might look to rest players, I think there is a history with Titans of resting certain players, and it's very possible that somebody like a Hardik Pandya himself might rest because there's always that fitness issue. and Shami is another one who would like to rest.
All right, we'll leave it there. We'll give you and Tom Moody some rest as well. This was a fun show. I don't ever remember anyone walking out to bat without their bat. So that's what happened to Tom.
That's you being unprofessional. You should be checking all this.
Yes. I do everything over here. Yeah. I have to go back now and end the show, so there's nobody sitting there. Right?
And close the studio on the way out.
I do. I have to sweep the floor before that.
Yeah. Okay, you too.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure. Guess what? We have you full day tomorrow. I can't wait for that. And Tom Moody, always a pleasure getting your time and your thoughts. Join us then. Punjab, Rajasthan, last round of games upon us. So we start in Dharamshala tomorrow, and then it's all to play for on the final double-header weekend of IPL 2023. You'll get plenty of reactions, and you can look at the points table and look at the scenarios. It'll all be there for you at the earliest on the ESPN Cricket for mobile app. So head over there right away. Thrilling game, wonderful game. Well done to RCB, and good luck to the Titans who come up against them at home. We'll see you tomorrow before Punjab Rajasthan on Visit Saudi presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Time. Thank you very much.